I'm in Massachusetts. I'm like
Oh, nice.
probably like 35 minutes outside of Boston.
Cool.
So out of the the shit of the city.
Right.
So but hey, welcome to another episode of Drop the Mitts Hockey Podcast, brought to you in partnership with, you know what, I fucked that up, dude, because we're not even with them anymore. I just quit today.
All good.
All right, we'll do it again. All right, well, I'll just restart it. Welcome back to another edition of Drop the Mitts Hockey Podcast. We've got an unbelievable guest today, one of the biggest beauties out there, host of the Live in Five podcast, and host of the legendary Hockey Night in Scottsdale, the People's Insider himself, JSwish, Jordan Schmaltz. How you doing, buddy?
You know what? Long-time listener. I've listened to your guys' stuff just over the last few days, so I don't know about long-time listener, but definitely first-time caller. Thank you for having me, baby. The People's Champ over here, self-proclaimed, that is, the People's Insider. But no, man, thank you for having me. Obviously got the mullet wig on right now, going to the Mullet Mega Bowl later on today. So thank you for having me on the pod, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much again for taking the time. Do you want to plug, what you guys are doing tonight over at Mullet Arena? Because obviously, sad day.
I know.
I think for any hockey fan, man, it's just so shitty. Especially for the great people that live in Scottsdale. A real junk punch. Do you want to, talk about what you guys are planning on doing tonight?
Yeah, it sucks, man. First of all, if you just feel for the good Coyote faithful, obviously there are a lot of fans here in the desert in terms of hockey fans, and taking one on the chin last week in terms of, moving the team or relocating to Salt Lake City. But in saying that, the last week or so, we're just trying to take over the Coyotes marketing scheme, because it seems like they have just kind of called it, pulled the e-brake on that one, and they're just trying to get rid of all their merchandise as is. So no, I just thought going into this game, make it fun, make it something funny, try to shed, a little humor on this game, a little light, because you never know. It might be the last game in Arizona in the NHL for quite some time here. Obviously, the next 3 to 5 years, but you never know moving forward in terms of will they bring a team back here. Obviously, hopefully they will later on, but you never know. In saying that, we just try to make this something fun. Obviously, I'm a big Will Ferrell guy. You factor in the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl. I thought this was kind of something similar in terms of the Mullet Mega Bowl. It had a nice ring to it. It's a game that doesn't really mean anything. Edmonton clinching their first place or second place. It looks like they're second in the Pacific. So they're kind of all locked up with Vancouver being the top dog there. And obviously the Coyotes have, had that golf schedule, kind of picked out since probably the trade deadline when they shipped Zucker, Dumba, and all those guys out of town. So I just thought it'd be something funny, get the fans involved, make it a whiteout, and we'll be down there, boots on the ground, me and the Heat Daddy, my co-host at Hockey Night Scottsdale, just outside the iconic Mullet Arena before the game, handing out some T-shirts we made, chopping it up with the people. We're going live on the news. I mean, I'm going to be in a fucking toga, a mullet, my fast shades on. I mean, I'm going all out. I'm going full tilt for this thing, so I'm fired up for it, and it sounds like all the people are as well. We got guys flying in from North Carolina messaging me yesterday. I'm calling in sick, Swish. I'm telling my boss I have pneumonia. I'm getting on a bird tomorrow, and I'll see you. Can I get a shirt? I'm like, fella, it's on me, buddy. It's on me. So it's going to be fun, man. I can't wait.
That's what the marketing team's doing, man. They're all putting in their sick time and trying to use as much vacation as they can. But
exactly,
fucking like I said, you and the Heat Daddy, man, two of the funniest people as far as hockey goes, and it's honestly really enlightening too. I put you guys in the same category as guys like Biz that kind of bring that funny aspect of the game. And like I mentioned, some of the funniest segments that you guys have done have been right in Mullet Arena on the glass. Can you talk about what it's like, just the environment of Mullet, and again, like what it's like being in that arena? Because obviously it's a college arena, but it seems that a lot of people that go in there love it in there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why they are relocating the team, and the team's being sold just because they didn't have an arena plan. And NHL wise, it's probably not a long-term fix, or it isn't, just because the spectacle is somewhere under 4,600 people. But if you're going in there as a one-time viewer, or you're watching games just as a season ticket holder or a fan, I mean, it is unbelievable. It's like watching a USHL game. It's kind of has that college feel, but I would say it's even a little bit rowdier than that. It just feels like it's a junior game, a college game. You're watching Ovechkin and you're 10 rows up, but you're in the last row of a section. So it's pretty funny that way. It's a good spectacle. It's fun. It's like watching your favorite band at a really small venue or an intimate experience. So that's how I always compare it. But yeah, it's going to be a good one, especially tonight. It's going to be a whiteout. I think people are going to go crazy during the game. Hopefully we have a lot of goals. Hopefully the boys can win this game because I got some cheddar on this thing. So we got at plus 145. So throwing the goddamn farm on this thing. So let's go, Coyotes.
I just saw your recent post too about the spicy tuna. If he drops mitts, man. So you think he does it tonight?
I don't know if he's going to have a willing combatant tonight just because Edmonton has it kind of locked up. Now, his only chance would be if they sit a few guys and maybe they call up a guy from the American League trying to make a mark. I haven't seen their roster who took morning skate. I've been kind of buzzing around. But in saying that, he's going to definitely be running around. I mean, it's Tuna. He's got the lead in the league in PIM. He's a friend of the show. Over at Live in 5, we nominated him for the Granite Chin Award. So the Chin of the Year went to Tuna O'Brien. He had led the league, tied in the league for fighting majors, and then as well as led the league in PIM. So yeah, he's no stranger to shed the laundry and throw on first, asking questions later. So I'm hoping, he does something a little criminal out there tonight. I mean, come on, let's go with the bang, Tuna.
That's what I'm saying, man. Man, I want to get into, you and the Heat Daddy, how that whole relationship started, because you guys are taking literally Twitter by storm. It's some of the funniest shit I've seen. I mean, from the, literally from on the glass things, the Dick's Sporting Goods, content that you guys have done. Some of the funniest shit I've seen, man. Talk about how that relationship kind of came about, and as far as like the live streams that you guys do, you guys have started doing like the shows as well, kind of like the improv type shit. Do you guys have plans of doing any more of those kind of shows?
Yeah, we're going actually up to Vancouver and Edmonton for game 1 here of the playoffs. We're going to be doing a back-to-back. It's looking like it's probably going to be Monday, Tuesday. So it'll be into Edmonton on Monday for game 1 at a bar called The Pint, and then The Pint as well in Vancouver. So yeah, we've done a bunch of live shows. We've probably done 5 or 6 this year. They're awesome, man. We just got back from Buffalo at the end of the month in March. That one was rowdy. I mean,
how was that, dude?
Oh, granite chins, people throwing both ways. I mean, it was insane. Like it was crazy. Like the people there. I mean, I don't know what you can say on this podcast.
Such an underrated city.
Yeah, I don't know what you can say on this podcast, but I had a guy hand me a bag of Colombian Bam Bam while I'm trying to do a show. I'm like, fella, first of all,
you're good. You could say whatever.
Yeah. So this guy, I'm on stage. I'm like, first of all, fella, I don't snow, but thank you for the gesture. It's like, buddy, like the people there are insane. They were crazy. They were rowdy. I think there's probably 2 chicks in the stands, but going back to how I met the Heat Daddy originally was, I mean, I was playing up until last year. So I was in Switzerland and then Helsinki, and then played 6 or 7 years over here, just kind of up and down between the NHL and the AHL. And every summer I would come back here, or at least my last 3 summers in Scottsdale when I bought my place. And he was always around. I mean, if you're going out on a night, the good chance you're going to run into the Heat Daddy. So our relationship kind of just happened naturally over the years in terms of hanging out with each other, see each other out. And then when I was going to call it quits and be done with hockey, I was like, man, like we should do something. This is going back to last summer. Like we should do a show. We should do a hockey show. I think it's missing a lack of color in different ways to bring the game. I think Spit and Chicklets does a really good job. I think Biz does a really good job. But I think we can bring a more even raw, uncut, and unfiltered, as crazy as that sounds, version of that to the game. And I think we have pretty good chemistry. And yeah, man, we have a lot of fun. These live shows have been great. The live streams we do once a week. And then, yeah, hopefully just, keep building this thing and getting our chins out there and, hitting the road. So it's been a lot of fun.
Now, the live shows, are they like 100% improv? Like, do you guys go in there expecting to talk hockey and then just kind of it unravels? Like, how does that work? Do you guys have a plan going in there of what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, a little yes and no. I mean, we definitely write like comedians before, but when you get in the arena, obviously that's going to change. So we do have a segment or a kind of a itinerary or a blueprint. I usually, write it down and kind of get all of our notes dialed in. The Heat Daddy's got his notes. And then we're kind of like, okay, well, the first, 10 minutes, 15 minutes is probably going to be like an opening monologue. So that's going to be basically improv comedy. And that could run anywhere to 20 minutes. Just depends how we're going. And then we'll usually cut to some sort of fan engagement where we'll do like a beer pong game, or we'll do flip cup, or we'll do a chug off. And, we're involved in that. And then there'll be like a merch giveaway. And then we'll kind of go back to maybe a little bit talking about the game. It just kind of depends. It's really improv. It's about a 75-minute show, and it's a lot of fun because we're reading off each other the whole time. And maybe something we were talking in the green room before, hey, we want to drop this. We don't even touch on that. Or it's funny what jokes work. You just got to be able to feel the crowd and ultimately kind of just, play in the moment. It's like running the 2-minute drill. Omaha. So it's been a lot of fun.
Now, brother, have you always had this kind of persona about you? I mean, pretty much it's like a character, right? I mean, have you always had this like kind of aspect to yourself, like even going back to your playing days? And then immediately after you stopped, you're like, obviously, you guys came up with this idea. Have you always been this fucking hilarious?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, I was a guy that wouldn't shut the fuck up in locker rooms. I'd be snapping it
Yeah.
around. I'd be going tape to tape, trying to think of the funniest joke I could for the boys, holding court. And then going back to even wearing wigs. I mean, I've been wearing wigs for 10 years now. I used to go out to the bars and just wear a wig, and I'd call my alter ego Clay. And I'd be like, boys, I'm going Clay tonight. And once I put the fast shades on and the wig, I'm Clay. So I'd be sitting at a nice restaurant in the middle of the summer while we're training in Minnesota, and I'd be with the wig on at 6 p.m. Then I wear it out to the bar that night. I mean, people would be looking at me like I'm a goddamn freak show, but it would be so funny because I would just, some nights I called for a wig. And it goes back to just movies of old school comedy like Starsky and Hutch. You go like they're talking about like, it's Hutch and Starsky and they're sitting in the cop shop there or whatever. And, Starsky's like, who does your wig work? He's like, what? Hutch is like, what? He's like, you don't have a wig guy? You always got to have a wig guy. So I've always had a wig guy,
Right.
and going back to that. But yeah, no, I've always had the character or just, going off the rails a little bit.
Now, when you're like buzzing around mullet or in that hockey space, and you're Clay, right? Have you ran into any people that like, kind of like higher end hockey people that are just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Oh yeah, when we did the one on the glass series, I had my Tide to Go Ricky Bobby NASCAR jacket on, Franklin gloves on, wig, fast shades, and a pair of, I believe, jean shorts on. And I walk around, I turn the corner, and I see my buddy Brad Richardson, who's now scouting for Calgary, and he's with like Don Maloney, who's the GM or assistant GM of Calgary, and a couple other guys too, like higher up in the brass. And I'm shaking their hands, like fuck. First of all, I got a glove on right now. It's like, how you doing, boys? But they all love it. They think it's hilarious. But it's I definitely have ran into a decent amount of people even working in hockey. Tony Herkus, I ran into, ex-Sioux guy. The Herkus Circus was probably the best player in Sioux history. Now scouts for Tampa Bay, and some other GMs. They all love it though. It's funny, and they know it's just Swishy being Swish, so it's
Right.
pretty funny.
Now, can you tell us a story about the glove, man? Some of the funniest shit. Like I was watching the vlog, I guess it was before. Can you touch on how all that came about?
Yeah, I don't even know how that really came about. I mean, obviously that day we were sitting in Moxie's, which is connected to Fashion Square, which is in the mall. And if you just make a left out of there and head about 7 paces north, you're going to run into Dick's Sporting Goods. Now, I've always been an advocate of Dick's Sporting Goods, especially going back to just fucking around, take an edible, go walk around Dick's Sporting Goods. Why not? I mean, what are you going to find? You're going to end up in the camping section, the batting section. You never know. But anyways, we had a few drinks that day, and we were going to the batting cage. And I'm like, Rob, like talking to the Heat Daddy, and I was like, man, we need batting gloves. Like if we're going to be hitting with shitty bats, like our hands are going to be stinging. So we went over to Dick's Sporting Goods, got the eye black, got the batting gloves. And once I put them on, I knew, I was like, holy fuck, like I don't think I can take these off the rest of the night. It just feels so good when I'm gripping my beer. Like I don't have to hold it as tight. I don't even need pine tar. It's just sticking in there. It's like putting a gun in the holster. So that is really how it developed. And then I just kind of randomly just started wearing them out. And it's hilarious when we're doing these live shows because people will come up to me and they'll have the Franklins on. They won't even say a word. They'll just hold up their hand. I'm like, oh my God, you got the Franklins on. You're ready to rock. So that's kind of how that came about. I actually, I'm working on a Franklin sponsorship right now. They sent me like 3 or 4.
No way, dude.
Yeah, they sent me like 3 or 4 pairs of free gloves. They're coming in the mail. They're custom. They say People's Insider on them. It's going to be hilarious. So,
but there's going to be nothing like the old one, right? The original, the original glove that you have, right?
No, it's how it is. It's just going back
like
to your
switching up a
day.
twig, man.
Exactly. So we'll see.
So, man, another thing, you've got this podcast, the Live in 5, you do with your buddy Gage, another beauty, another North Dakota legend. How's that podcast going? I've gotten to listen to a couple. You've had some unreal guests. Dave Carl, national, just won the Natty. How's that been going for you guys?
Yeah, it's been good. I think it's been, like I say, low and slow. It's been good, though, in terms of just getting good guests on. I think that's our biggest focus. We had Colton Ost on, who was covering the Masters this past week. Obviously, David Carl. We've had Biz on. This week, we got Nate Schmidt from Winnipeg coming on. He's a goofball. So we've had a lot of good guests in terms of just people in and around the game. And also, non-hockey people as well, as which we kind of like to do. We like to talk about hockey, but also get off on other tangents and different things like that. And Ozzy's great. I mean, he was a captain at North Dakota for 2 years. He was a national champion. He played with my brother on that team. He was one grade below me. So I've always been good buddies with him. And, he's got his moving company and different things, but it's awesome. We get to talk once or twice a week and get some pretty good guests on. So I'm really enjoying it, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, you guys have unbelievable chemistry too. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But man, like going back, you talking about the guests, man. Like you had Denver winning it all.
Yep.
Do you think there's a shot? Dave Carl goes to the NHL.
I think if the bag is right, I think he might need to call the People's Insider, and maybe hire him as his agent first of all. But yeah,
Right.
I think he's smart, and he's so just such an old soul, being an Alaska guy, the last frontier. He's been coaching since he was 18 years old. I mean,
So
he
well
just has,
spoken.
yeah, just the wits about him. He's so
Yeah.
calm. He's so good, and I think he's honestly going to wait for the right opportunity. Now, if the bag is right, now the Pagulas come to him in Buffalo and say, "Hey, here's 4x4." I don't think he's turning that down to go down to Chippewa Street and maybe try to turn that thing around. But
Right.
I don't know. He's definitely going to have offers in the next 1 or 2 years. Will it be this year, next year? We'll see. I think the time is probably right now, coming off his second national championship,
Right.
won the World Juniors. So he's going to be in the NHL when he wants to be. I think there's going to be a line of people knocking on his door in terms of general managers around the league. So we'll see where he ends up. But I definitely think he's so smart that he's going to wait for the right spot, the right fit to go into somewhere and be like, okay, this feels right for my family. And this team has definitely some young, promising pieces.
Yeah, they're unbelievable, man. Like that run they went on and how they were able to kind of shut down that BC and those young guys. I mean, that's right out of the textbook, right?
Yeah, that defensive clinic they put on was crazy. I was watching that game. We did it for Hockey Night in Scottsdale, and Matty Davis played really well, their netminder there. But just the way that they were able to defend from the dots out, it's just they didn't allow anything in the slot, anything across the box. It was crazy. I mean, they had that one chance, BC, at the start of the third, I believe, Leonard to maybe put them
Oh
down
my
away
God,
a
that was
goal.
unbelievable.
But then Davis was there for the save,
Right.
so they just locked it down. Those Bouillon brothers, I mean, those guys were great. It's just DC, man. All the guy does is win.
Right. Man, I kind of want to. We had absolute mayhem last night too in the NHL. I mean,
Yes.
coming down to 4 teams making the playoffs. How do you feel about Washington making the playoffs? I mean, I'm not too thrilled about it. I think they're going to get absolutely waxed against the Rangers.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on how this whole thing finished out?
I think I'm on the same page as you, brother. I just think 4 games, probably they're going to get whacked. They might squeeze out one if Ovi has 2 tucks in a game or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they're old, they're run down. It's just crazy their goal differential and how they got into the playoffs. I mean, it doesn't even make sense how they got in if you're looking at the stats, right? I
Right.
wish a team like Detroit would have got in. I think they're more exciting. I think they could have done a little bit of damage. But in saying that, it's crazy that Washington's in. But did you see that picture of Ovi after the game? Oh my
He's
God.
just a mutant.
Like, that is not a guy you want to see in a back alley.
No,
Like,
dude.
he don't need a gun. He don't need a knife. He's just gonna just rip you apart.
No, and then even his like in-game like interviews, you can tell he doesn't want to talk to anyone when he's dialed in, and I can respect the hell out of that.
Yep.
But man, again, to have this Caps make the playoffs with a minus 37 goal differential is outrageous.
It's crazy, and they don't even like have that. The pieces of their team, it doesn't even make sense how they got in. I mean, obviously Ovi had 31 goals, and a lot of those goals were scored in the latter half of the season to will their team in. But Oshie's been hurt. Tom Wilson missed games to suspension. Sandin's been hurt. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, if they win one game against the Rangers, and I don't even think the Rangers are that good, but I just think if they even get one game, that's a fucking win for them in that series, because I don't know how they're in the playoffs. It's crazy.
Right, and their goalie Charlie Lindgren looks like one of my math substitute teachers from high school. I'm like, how the fuck is it? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I know.
And again, it's honestly been one of the best regular seasons. I mean, you've seen McDavid; he just hit 100 apples. Kucherov very well may do it tonight.
Yep.
And neither of them probably won't win the Hart. I think it's going to go to McKinnon. Do you think this has been one of the best regular seasons ever?
I think so. And I mean, I tweeted out yesterday, I just thought it was hilarious that everyone's talking about McJesus putting up 100 apples when a guy like Kucherov is going to get it probably, tonight or tomorrow, whenever they play. It's just crazy that, guys, I think there's been 7 or 8 guys in the league to have 100 assists or whatever it was. I mean, maybe not even that many. I'm not the stat pack over here. I'm just the People's Insider. But I think Kucherov's going to get it. McKinnon, he's been unbelievable, 50-odd goals, 138 points. I just think, like, for me, I don't think he's going to win the MVP, but if I'm had a vote, I would give it to Kucherov because the differential between him and the next scorer on the Tampa Bay Lightning is Braden Point, and I believe he's 53 points back, which is just
Right.
absurd to me. If they didn't have Kucherov on that team, I don't even think they're a mid-level. They're like a mid-level team. I think they're probably finishing between 20 and 32, and I would probably say somewhere between 23 to 30. It's just crazy how good he's been. And people always talk about he gets all of his cookies on the power play. Well, he's second in the league, only behind, I think, McKinnon in even strength points, where he has 90. McKinnon's 91. So I do think you're right, though. I think the voters are, it's just kind of McKinnon's year to win that heart. But man, you can really make a case for Nikita Kucherov.
Do you think the NHL's kind of gotten away from that as far as like giving these awards out, where it's like, as far as the heart goes, it's like the most important to their team? Like, I would argue, and I'd agree with you, if you took Nikita Kucherov away from that team, I mean, I don't think they're half as good. And you could argue it for McKinnon. I mean, they're still fucking loaded.
Yes, I think you're right there. And I just think with Vasilevsky being hurt, also his save percentage has been dog shit this year. And just that point differential. I mean, you know how 53 points, man, that's a good season for one player. Like,
Right.
you put up 53 points, that gets you $6 million in this league, right? That's like essentially putting another player on your team with that gap. And, the differential between the other guys with Draisaitl, McJesus, I think, is like 30-odd points. The same with Mikko Rantanen, with McKinnon. But, yeah, I mean, McKinnon, just when you watch him, though, just how he just gallops through the neutral zone, the explosiveness. Right. He's like a fucking Clydesdale out there. It's crazy. So I think that's why the voters will probably go with him. Now, it is a good case. I just think if you're looking at the definition of most valuable to their team, I think you could argue that Kucherov is probably that guy. But what a season it's been. I think if you're looking at the Norris, even, it's probably Quinn Hughes this year. It just feels like it's his year with the team kind of turning it around, going from the outhouse to the penthouse. They've had a great year there, finished number 1 in the Pacific. So, yeah, it's been a hell of a season. You just can't wait for playoffs, right? The last 3 weeks, it's like, all right, let's just get this thing going.
And I'm a Bruins guy too. So, I mean, last night, obviously, the big thing was, would you rather Tampa? Would you rather Toronto? And I don't know why for me, it's 100% give me Toronto.
Yeah.
Because I think just the defensive core, I love Morgan Riley, but just that goaltending situation, I want to keep Tampa and Vasilevsky far away from Boston until we absolutely have to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it just seems like, Boston over the years has been Toronto's big brother in terms of just, kind of just manhandle them a little bit. Now, it's going to be a good series. I think it's going to really come down to Tavares' play, Marner, those guys. Tavares definitely slowing down this year. How does he look in the playoffs? Can he play at another level for, a series 2, whatever it is? Marner kind of always has the cloak on in terms of his playoff play. Defensively, I've never liked Toronto's defense. I think they rave about a lot of guys that are they're just kind of vanilla. But let's see how it goes. I love Boston. I love their decor. I love their goalie. Now their forwards, not as good as in years past, but I definitely think it's good enough to get it done against Toronto. And then, you get that momentum of one series and you go from there, baby.
Now, you being a former defenseman, man, I want to go back to, the Norris Trophy. Last year, obviously, we saw Erik Karlsson win it, but he was a minus 23. Do you think, could you make an argument for Roman Josi winning the Norris over a guy like Quinn Hughes with his overall defensive play? Not necessarily just numbers wise, but being a defenseman as a whole.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he's got 23 odd goals, 85 points. So he's right there with Quinn Hughes. I mean, he's leading the league for defensive goals, 23 goals. And I think he has 85 points, unless he had a couple last night. But 100%. I mean, that guy, even playing against him the 3 or 4 times we did, it's just, I got to play against him. It's just the way he can skate, the way he controls the play, how calm he is. Now, he's probably not as good laterally as a guy like Quinn Hughes, but up and down the ice, he's probably better. He's just as heady in terms of the way he thinks the game. He's so cerebral back there. I love his game. I think he's a little bit more calmer. He's definitely better defensively, the way he can close out guys. Yeah, you could definitely make the case for him. I just think this year is the voters are going to be like, you know what? It's Hughes' year. We want to get this guy a trophy similar to Fox. It's just kind of these guys that in and around it. I just think it's probably going to be him, and rightfully so. I think he deserves it.
Yeah, man. I agree. It's gonna come down to the wire. Obviously, I think either are definitely more than deserving. But man, I want to get into your playing days. I was out on the old elite prospects.
Yep,
And man, you had some pretty good seasons. You know, one of the biggest things is you had an unbelievable career at North Dakota, and that's been one of the arenas. Like I really want to go visit the Ralph, man. Like,
for sure.
what was it like playing? You know, playing there, the fans, just for people. You know, obviously us being on East Coast. What is hockey like over there in North Dakota?
Yeah, it's there's nothing like it. You know, even going back as a fan this past year when we did a live show there in, I believe it was October for the Minnesota series. I brought the Heat Daddy up there, and he couldn't even believe it. You know, he said, "What is this place?" I mean, the even the renovations. It seems like they're doing renovations every year to the locker room, to the facilities, to just everything the boys have. I mean, they have cryo chambers down there. They have
Right.
red light therapy. They have a fucking napping room. They have, I mean, a water beds. All these different things that you couldn't even think of, they have there, and it's just, it's such a good culture there. The tradition, just even being around the town and the arena. I mean, it's the town's probably 45,000 people. It's sold out every night with 12,000 people. So you got to think that's a third of the town going to the games. And I mean,
Right.
it's the Taj Mahal of hockey. There's no better rink. It's the culture is unbelievable. If you haven't been to a game there and you need an excuse to go up to Grand Forks, North Dakota, number one, everyone in that town is at the bar no later than 3 p.m. and they're throwing both ways with their chins tucked. So that's a good part about
My
it.
kind of place.
Yes. Piss tanks, you know, it's just the people are unbelievable, down to earth, salt of the earth type of people. But then you parlay that into just the hockey. It's, I mean, there's a reason why there's been so many NHLers that come out of North Dakota because the facilities, the coaching staff. And yeah, I can't say enough good things. I had a great time there. You know, best years of my life. Played a year with my brother there, so it was so much fun. And I mean, those are still our closest buddies. We do a North Dakota Sioux golf trip every year. This will be our 8th year. We pick a random city, we fly in, and we still have like a full on roster of guys that come in. It's about 20 odd guys, and holy fuck, fella, talk about throwing both ways with that crew. Because guys that go to North Dakota, especially back in my day, you know, there's a good amount of piss tanks.
Dude, like I can't even imagine it. And obviously, they got an Air Force base out there, and that's the big
Yep.
thing. Is like everyone, they just booze, and I'm like, man,
Yes.
I really wish I could have made it out there.
Yes.
But man, they had, as far as the, recently, they've had some really talented players, teams as a whole. Obviously, Jackson Blake went up for the, Hobie Baker this past year, and they just haven't been able to get to that, that point of winning a natty. Um, what do you think the teams are missing? Like what? I don't know. That I mean, I mentioned before they've got really talented players.
Yeah.
Regular season they have some really great teams, but they just haven't been able to make it past. They haven't been able to make it to the Frozen Four. Now, what do you think they're missing?
Yeah, it's been 8 years and they've won one
Yeah,
tournament game. I mean, it's crazy. That's since the national championship. I don't know, man. It's really weird and it's frustrating because even as alumni, you still feel like you're in that locker room and you want to fix things. And we have a group
right.
chat of guys of like, what's going on with these guys? Are they a bunch of milk drinkers now? Are they pussies? Like, are they not having
Right.
parties, or is it because of the transfers and the portal and all this? I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's this portal has changed a lot of different things in terms of bringing in guys. It seems like every year is free agency.
It's like fucking free agency, dude.
Yeah, so now you bring in guys that are 24, 25 that are, no disrespect, were good players at RIT, but they come in for 1 year at North Dakota, using it like a gap year to hopefully go play pro hockey, where
Right.
you're not really embedded into the culture. Yes, you learn about it, you come in for a year, but even then, man, it's different. It's different when you have all those older players on your team showing the freshmen the way, really, putting them in their place, what it is to be Sioux. And then you have these older guys that come in, and it's tough to do the same thing because he's 24 years old, 25. I mean, this guy, fuck, he might even have a kid and a wife, and who knows, because you guys are so old at this point when they come in. So I just think it's a little bit of the portal. I think it's a little bit of the recruiting. I mean, I'm not blaming the coaches at all. I just,
Right.
maybe we haven't lucked out on some of those, key, I would say middle six depth guys, role players that will do anything. I always go back to guys that I play with, like, maybe not the most talented guys and probably not even household names that people would even know about, but we had guys that are just Sioux. They would buy in, and then the talent around that nucleus would build off of that. So I just think it comes down to everything, and I just hope they can figure it out because it sucks seeing them lose after year. And 2 years ago they didn't make the fucking tournament. So it's like, boys, we got to figure this out and be able to compete with teams like Denver, BC, Michigan, because if you look at this facility, there's no excuses.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what's crazy, man. You mentioned like culture aspect of things, and you just brought up the transfer portal. It's like it's impossible to grow a culture, right? When you got guys
Yeah.
leaving after their freshman year. And you know what? For me, I think college hockey has grown as a whole, right? Because you're getting a lot of these really talented kids from Canada
Hmm.
that are deciding to come down. But again, a lot of them are one and done, leaving or two
Yeah.
and done, and it's really hard to build that culture. It's one of those. It's puzzling to me as well, man, because they've had some really talented teams. I mentioned Jackson Blake. You know, Reese Gaber was really fun to watch. I've been following him for a few years now. Do you think Jackson Blake should have won the Hobie?
I don't think so. I mean, he's a good player, and I think he's going to need a little lemon pepper in terms of some seasoning down there in the AHL. But I think he's going to be a good player. I think he's going to definitely have every chance to be an NHL or a top six type of player. I think they look at him in Carolina as maybe a little bit like a Seth Jarvis with some more moxie, undersized, but can get it done. But I don't know if he should have won the Hobie, but I mean, it's cool. Anytime you're in that consideration for the Hobie hat trick, it's pretty cool to be there. But it's just as a committee, and I always think there's a little bit of East Coast bias being a West guy that they're probably going to go with a guy like Celebrini, especially when he's going to be the first overall pick, and he's deserving of it. So, but Jackson Blake definitely can make the case. I mean, led the NCHC in points, had a really good second half of the year. But I still think he needs to round out his game a little bit and mature. I think there's some things where he tries to overcomplicate things as a skill guy, but he has all the tools. He can play. He's got really good stick skills. Obviously, a heady player. So, I'm hoping for the best for old Blaker.
Yeah, 100%, man. I know he made his NHL debut
Yep.
last night with Bradley Nadeau, so that was cool to see. Um, Going back to your career, man, you were a journeyman. You've been all over.
Yep.
You've been overseas. The St. Louis Blues you played with, Chicago Wolves,
Yep.
Rampage of San Antonio, the Marlies. What are some, if you had to make a list of like your favorite places that you've played, do you have any hilarious stories about your days playing?
Yeah, I think just especially being a first round pick, it wasn't really how I drew it up. It's like holy fuck, I gotta fucking keep my suitcase packed at all times here, and I gotta be on standby on Southwest just in case I'm going somewhere. I think I played in every division in the jungle. Actually, I know I did. I played in the Atlantic out there, the East. I played in the Toronto division. I think it's the Atlantic and the East, and then you got the Central, the West, and then the Pacific. So I touched them all in terms of that. The AHL, I got my full on flavor of that league, but yeah, I think like I just go back to just playing with cool guys and different things. Obviously, St. Louis. My roommate in the minors was Jordan Bennington, who a guy I stood in his wedding last summer. He's one of my best friends, and he gets a bad rap for what he is, but if you knew him, he's a full on beauty and just a guy's guy. So guys like that. Kenny Agostino is a guy that
Yeah.
he's a little bit of a journeyman as well. He was an AHL MVP in Chicago. I got 2 stops with him in Chicago as well as in Toronto. So yeah, man, I think just playing with good dudes. I think the game has definitely changed from when I came into the league in terms of the AHL, and now it's not so much the Iron League anymore. I think
Right.
it's changed in terms of everything in a good way. But yeah, I love my time in Helsinki, Finland. I would say if I'm looking at one spot that I had a lot of fun in and just kind of was able to revitalize my game, I think I was kind of getting burnt out of the AHL. I was just running around city to city, and it just wasn't that much fun anymore for me. But I got that year in Helsinki, and despite the sun setting at 2:15 p.m., fuck man, that city's unbelievable. The
Right.
people are great, and I just love my time in Finland. And I always go back to playing for that IFK Helsinki team because 8,500 people every night, sold out, unbelievable barn. You get treated like the Yankees of Finland. I mean, you get treated better than any AHL team there. It's not NHL obviously because it's Europe, but it's a very good program. And yeah, I always go back to my time in Finland, and I always tell people, Finland, if you're a single guy, sneaky trim fella.
There you go. Dude, like, and again, did you get to travel around at all? Like, obviously, you were probably playing most of the time, but did you get to travel around to like other countries while you were there?
Yeah, for sure. I did, and especially last year in Switzerland. I was hurt with an injury last year, but traveled a bunch. I mean, Switzerland is so centrally located. You can get to Paris in 3-4 hours. You can get done in Lake Como in an hour and a half. Milan, all these cities, just via train or get in your car and drive. And even in Helsinki, we would, the flights are so cheap and close. We did Stockholm, obviously, Copenhagen, a couple other cities as well. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. And I just think if any guy is kind of on that verge of on the back nine of what they think their career is, go over to Europe and go try it out because you can get to a good organization and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, I feel like it gets kind of a bad rap too. Like, I don't know. It's still great hockey over there. I know, like,
Oh
I've
yeah.
known a couple people that have gone to like Stockholm and had an absolute blast. Like the women there, unbelievable.
Yep.
So again, like, yeah, it's definitely one of those things that kind of gets a bad rap. Like, if you're going overseas, like you're not, not a great player, which I completely disagree with.
Yep.
Because it's still phenomenal hockey. But again, man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this pod. If you want to plug again what's going on tonight, I'm gonna try to make a couple shorts before we, so we can get it out there, where people can buy shirts. If you want to, plug the mullet the mullet mega bowl.
Yeah, I got the Mullet Mega Bowl. It's a whiteout first and foremost, organized by yours truly, JSwish over here, and Robbie Gucci, the Heat Daddy, on Twitter. Folks, we are going down to the Mullet right in the jaw of Tempe, Arizona, the last game ever of Desert Dog history for the meantime. But yeah, we're going to be on right by the Uber pickup, which is Packard Avenue, just on the west side of the building, just right across from the entrance. So we'll be slinging some teas. People got, pickups. We'll have a few. If you're coming, just bring cash, come hang out. And then obviously it's a whiteout. So keep that chin tucked when you're there. But no, brother, I appreciate you coming on. And again, if you want to order a t-shirt, go to Butter.golf. They're on the website there. So if you're an out-of-town shooter, go there. Check it out, Butter.golf. We got some other stuff on there. But no, thank you again, my friend. Tonight's going to be a blast. I can't wait. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. And again, guys, that was JSwish, Jordan Schmaltz of the Live in 5 pod, and also host of the legendary Hockey Night in Scottsdale. Unbelievable guy. Like I said, his Twitter is up there, at J_Swish24, as well as the pod account at Live in 5 pod. And also go follow their YouTube as well. Go subscribe to their YouTube. They've got some awesome content on there. That's at Live in 5 2024. So definitely give them a subscribe to their content. They've got some really hilarious stuff out there. Awesome stuff. But thank you so much again, brother. I greatly appreciate you. I hope you and the Heat Daddy have a blast tonight. Give it hell, bro.
Yeah, gonna try to keep it probably under 25 drinks tonight. We'll see how that goes. It is a Wednesday, folks. It is the Hump Day special. No, but thanks again, brother. Appreciate it, Chris.
Thank you so much, man. Take care.
Yep, you too.